Hey guys, Cartoon Retro Boy here, and welcome to my SpongeBob episode review of a SpongeBob episode that you guys probably remember because of the marketing. Let's see, what episode do I have today? Looks like I have SpongeBob, You're Fired. Just calm down, Kaden. It's just a special. It's just a 22-minute special. It shouldn't be as painful as True for Square and Choir Boys, but it's still bad. Okay, before ripping into this dumpster fire of a special, let me say this. Let me give you a background of how I got to see this episode. So, when the promos were coming out for this special, I was excited to see how was the special gonna be like. So, back in October 2013, they were hyping this up like a big event on Nickelodeon. And this special was one of their biggest was the last episode to have 5 million viewers. That's actually sad a little bit. That's kind of sad to think of, because now onwards there was only 2 million views on specials, or even 1 million on specials nowadays, or literally just zero, or sometimes even just and sometimes not every special has their own viewership. Unfortunately, this is another special that falls into another ratings trap. SpongeBob had a few of them had a few of them, to be fair, such as Best Day Ever, Atlantis Grapantis, True for Square, Classic Triton, Legends of Bikini Bottom, and the SquarePants Are Not the SquarePants, which are episodes that I don't really feel passionate about. Well, except for Best Day Ever. I do like that one a lot. And, yeah. And Ghoul Fools, actually, too, as well. I do think it's a ratings trap a little bit, because it does feel like it was just kind of marketed, it was marketed so heavily on Nickelodeon in October 2011, and that episode turned out to be one of the most mediocre specials of the show's history, honestly. Even some of the better specials around this time couldn't escape from being a ratings trap. For example, I like SpongeBob vs. Big One, but I will admit it's not perfect. And this episode does have a few issues, to be fair. And I do have a few issues with this episode, to be fair. And I do feel like it's a little bit of a ratings trap. Same with Last Stand and Great Patty Caper as well, which are specials I do like, but I will admit they are a little bit of ratings traps when you think about them. I mean, it feels like and also Back to the Past as well. I felt like that was a ratings trap. So, yeah, a lot of specials that had ratings traps in it. A lot of ratings traps. So, back to SpongeBob You're Fired. Let's just say when I was so excited for the special, and I was so excited to watch it on first airing on November 11th, 2013, when I was only still 2 years old, and I was presented one of the worst episodes of the entire show's history. Yeah, one of the worst. At the time, I didn't know this special was going to be hot garbage. I was excited to see how SpongeBob gets fired for a reason. What reason could that be? Now, before I ripped into this special at least a little bit, maybe I should talk about some of the merchandise for it. So, for example, because before I ripped into this special, let's talk about the merchandise first. So, first up we have is a SpongeBob You're Fired book. Yes, they made this a book anyway. And there was another book called SpongeBob, a book, it's called SpongeBob Get a Job, or Get a Job SpongeBob, and Fry Cook Freak Out for... It was a coloring book anyway, and the other one was a step 2 read book. This is the only one I actually physically own, to be fair. So, it's basically the same as the episode. It is basically this... Hold up. Looking back on... I owned this for 10 years. I recently got this book just for this, special. And Basically, this is a retelling of the special, but except there is some things cut out from the special. For example, there's no SpongeBob flooding the Krusty Krab with his tears anyway, or any filler scenes. Sure, it's still the same bad special in here, but at least some things were fixed in this special. At least it has, and I will say the art style of the book is really good. It looks quality like the show. It looks exactly like the show for a reason. And it does look really good, honestly. It looks really good for the quality. It looks exactly like the episode it was based on, which is surprising to know. But, it's still the same bad episode, to be fair, but at least less bad. So, if I was giving this book a rating from a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably going to get a 7 out of 10. It is a pretty good book, and it does have a lot of things that are better than the episode itself, but, it's still kind of based on a terrible episode, abysmal episode. So, this is like the final battle of the post-movie era, and this was the last episode before Sponge Out of Water came out. So, yeah, that's really it. Well, at least I have one more thing I want to You heard that right? Yes, I have one more thing to show off before I rant into this abysmal of a special. And that is the unfortunate DVD release. Yes, not only the special came out on DVD, not only this episode had a book, 3 books, this had a flash game and a DVD release. I have at least thankfully the other episodes on here are actually good, honestly. And has some okay episodes too. Most of this DVD is pretty good, honestly. It does have the abysmal episode that it is based on, which I do not like. Because, I don't like this episode at all. Like, I thought it was, like, one of the worst episodes ever made, honestly. So, yeah. It is based on the episode. And I am just showing off what the DVD has, because it has all 14 episodes right there. And it has pizza delivery, which is a good plus. And here's the disc anyway. Yeah, this is basically all the DVD has anyway. There's no special features, unfortunately, which was kind of apparent between 2012 to 2015, where they have no special features on them at all. Not even shorts. But yeah, overall, I'll give this DVD a good 8 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not even a bad DVD. Even though it has the abysmal episode that I don't like so much, the other episodes are pretty good on here, like Help Wanted, Pizza Delivery, Wet Painters, Krusty Krab Training Video, The Original Fry Cook, Employee of the Month, Krusty Dogs, Bossy Boots, and even some okay episodes on here, like Neptune Spatula, Welcome to the Chum Bucket, Limpy Switch, Model Sponge, License Milkshake, and that's it. So yeah, it has good episodes on there, so I think the good episodes do save this DVD from being absolute garbage, and also the okay episodes too as well. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10. At least it's not perfect, but I will say the episodes are at least save it. At least the episodes save it, besides the real episode. Now we got that out of the way. Let's tear this episode apart. So, what's the plot? So the plot is about Mr. Krabs firing SpongeBob over a nickel. My first tangent, or no, I shouldn't say the tangent, because I really feel like that's kind of a word I should not really use too much, is that why is Mr. Krabs so dumbed down in the special? I feel like Nickelodeon overall was forcing the crew to make this a special, which I heard originally this was supposed to be 11 minutes long. I think I would have preferred it if it was 11 minutes, because even then, some of the other episodes in season 9, like Pull Up a Barrel and SpongeBob Long Pants, should have been a 22-minute special instead. At least they would have been better. At least if they would have been better. At least it would have been better like that. At least if those two were specials, then I think this season would have been better. At least when it comes to, like, specials. Because It Came from Goo Lagoon is another special that I do like, but it's not perfect to be fair. But, still. Anyway, let's move on. So, let's talk about why I hate Mr. Krabs firing SpongeBob over Nickel so much. Because, in reality, like, Mr. Krabs, I'm pretty sure that people wouldn't do this type of greed. That's greedy, and I think that's just unlikable Mr. Krabs, to be fair. Thank goodness this is the final boss battle of post movie episodes, because gosh, this is one of the worst episodes of the entire show's history. It has everything wrong that a SpongeBob special has, like Atlantis Scorpantis, Clash of Triton, True for Square, and even Legends of Bikini Bottom had. Boring filler that doesn't need to be in the special. It may not be like the Clash of Triton where it has a battle. At least that's actually, well, I kind of prefer the false advertising of the Clash of Triton. Actually, no, I can't say that. That's kind of mean. That's a little too mean. You notice the pattern here? And also Squirrel Jelly too, as well. That's a ratings trap. I'm noticing a pattern here is that a lot of the specials around this time, around the time of the show, at least around seasons 4 to season 5 onwards, I notice a lot of the specials seem a little bit rushed. Or should I say they feel half-baked. Like Atlantis Scorpantis, The Clash of Triton, True for Square, Legends of Bikini Bottom, and especially this episode feel half-baked for being a special. I'm sorry if I'm being a little mean, but... And... Oh my gosh. And don't get me started on, honestly, And don't get me started on the filler scenes. The filler scenes is what drives me nuts in this episode. Because, man... for example, the scene where SpongeBob is cooking up the Krusty Krab is so boring and forgettable, and so just boring. It doesn't need to be there. They could have just started the plot by Mr. Krabs firing SpongeBob in the first place. They could have just put that in the first minute of the episode and have the episode focus on SpongeBob getting new jobs. We don't need any of this nonsense. And like I said before, this special sure likes to drag a lot. And I'm assuring you that even though I do, and I assure you, also the biggest problem in the special is also how SpongeBob's character is acted. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind when characters are sad and stuff, but this is kind of over the edge. This is Are You Happy levels of sadness. Because SpongeBob becomes so depressed, so sad, so, oh my gosh. It makes you feel bad for him, too, as well. He's so bummed out, and I don't like it, but I don't think it's horrible. At least it doesn't make me uncomfortable like Are You Happy Now does. But I argue this is worse because, like I said, this is the character that is the main character of the show, of his own show. And like I said before, this show is based around SpongeBob. And he has other hobbies he does. He does jellyfishing, he can sing, he can do karate. The episode doesn't acknowledge that, so that's why it makes it also so pointless. And the scene, most of the first half of the second half is just SpongeBob being bummed out. Well, actually, the middle of the first half is basically SpongeBob being bummed, and the second half, in the first minutes of the second half, is him being bummed out more. It's just boring filler that doesn't need to be there. I'd rather him just get a new job, personally. Like, get the episode pacing better. So after SpongeBob becomes like super bummed, Patrick tells him about like tries to cheer him up at least. Well, at least I hope he is, because I hope it's not on purpose. And at least it's not Patrick being a prick here, so that's good. Or sorry to say, no, not Patrick being a prick, at least being a moron at least. But you know, like I said before. Oh, it says SpongeBob feeds Gary, of course. We needed a joke about that, but oh well. Anyway, another thing I do not like about this episode is that the pacing of it is like season 7 levels of bad. Yes, this is paced like a season 7 episode, which is sad to say, because honestly, at least I'll give season 8 credit. At least the episodes that were badly paced actually had something that was good about it. At least had something. What can I get out of a boring experience, honestly? I generally can't tell if some of the scenes of this episode was just so boring that they couldn't even care. I'm pretty sure that it was Nickelodeon who made this a special. And I'm pretty sure... Oh, okay, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to discuss that. So, SpongeBob decides to get a new job. So after Sandy tries to cheer up SpongeBob by telling him to get a new job, SpongeBob agrees. Well, until once he gets to his first new job, which is the weenie hunt, SpongeBob basically can only cook Krabby Patties, which has been used already in License to Milkshake and also Limbic Switch and Model Sponge. 3 episodes that has SpongeBob can't cook anything but Krabby Patties or do anything but Krabby Patties. At least those episodes had gags about that. Had a gag about that. But this is a whole scene of SpongeBob just cooking Krabby Patty, cooking a something similar to a Krabby Patty to most of the business owner guys that were at each of the restaurant, like the Pizza High Hole, the taco one, and the wet noodle one. And like I said, this is I don't mind it, but like I said, it's a little too long. After SpongeBob gets fired 4 times, he goes back home and basically makes his own snail food for Gary. Oh boy. The special is getting... Notice how I'm not sounding happy about this special? Well, frankly, it's because I have nothing to really add on to this special. At least, not so much I can say about it, and my tone is just showing that I don't care about this special. Because there's nothing to remember here. It's just blah. It's just a blah. And I think Nickelodeon tricked us into thinking this would be a good special, because honestly, the promotions think that it would be a good special. It could be a really good one, but like I said, Nickelodeon didn't. It was not heartwarming like some of the cartoon fans say, and the SpongeBob Mania guys, because I seen most of the comments on SpongeBob Fired. I saw them say, "Oh, it's heartwarming. This should have been the 200th episode." Like, shut up about that. Like, no, that's not true, and it should have not been the 200th episode. That's just wrong. I guarantee ya, if season 9A had more episodes, I guarantee ya it would have been SpongeBob's midward season. Second midward season. But thankfully, season 9B is better, which I'm hoping I can review, hopefully I can. But for now, we have to review SpongeBob Fired still. So, like I said before, SpongeBob cooks snail food, which is pointless, and it's kind of filler. Like I said, the special has a problem filler scenes. And then, here's what something unexpected happens. SpongeBob gets kidnapped, and basically gets kidnapped by one of the business owners, and force him in forced work labor. That's just wrong. I'm sorry, in real life you would go to jail for that. I'm sorry. Like, forcing someone to go in work labor is so wrong, and so wrong in so many ways. Sorry if I'm taking this seriously, but this is writing. This is supposed to be writing. You're supposed to be doing good writing, not crappy writing. And then we get the scene where the pizza guy decides to kidnap SpongeBob himself too, and takes him to his restaurant. And then the wet noodle guy snatches him up too. And then the taco guy also grabs him too. And then they all start to fight over SpongeBob. Well, admittedly, this is my favorite part of the episode, them fighting over SpongeBob. I think the fighting action sequence is the only part I actually like in this special, because the rest of it is, and also the characters, and Patrick is not so bad here, or Sandy, but still, they're still post-movie standards. It's still post-movie standards anyway, so what do I expect? Whatever. I'm sorry if I'm... And then Squidward, who's dressed up in a Krabby Patty suit, decides to defeat all the business owners who kidnapped SpongeBob, and then brings him back to the Krusty Krab, where it turns out of all surprises, the Krusty Krab was horribly run without SpongeBob, which has been used in the show so many times, including even the first episode, Help Wanted. See how much I'm sighing so much? Because I am just getting this over with already. So SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs apologizes for firing SpongeBob, and that it was a bad choice anyway, and rehires SpongeBob. SpongeBob is happy. SpongeBob cleans up the Krusty Krab, and it ends with a joke about Homer and Walker being, Old Man Walker have to pay like a nickel for the toilet. And that ends SpongeBob. This ends SpongeBob, You're Fired. What a load of barnacle. What a load of barnacle crap. This is literally a special that I just can't, is so boring, so lightless, so bland, and so un-SpongeBob. And this is exactly what I mean by thankfully, SpongeBob took a break in 2014, because thank goodness after 2014 only had 2 new episodes, and I'm thankful for that, because honestly, this is kind of a nail in the coffin for SpongeBob when it comes to the show. And this felt like a nail in the coffin for reasons for some people, because it felt like SpongeBob was just going rock bottom by this point, which was not a good sign, and it was going worse and worse and worse. Season 9 may not be the worst season of the show, or should I say half season, but it felt like SpongeBob was turning a zombie of itself, which Luke Vaughn also said in his Season 9 retrospective. Oh yeah, shoutouts to Luke Vaughn being mentioned in this video, because, I really love his channel, and I love what stuff. His SpongeBob You're Fired segment was actually surprising, because I was not expecting him to fight over the episode title in a match, in a battle. Like, that is just so shocking and so amazing. That is just clever, right? I just think that's clever, and it's actually more pleasing than watching the episode itself. What's the final score of SpongeBob You're Fired? A 1 out of 10. Number 3 on my bottom 3 of SpongeBob SquarePants. This is exactly what I mean by I think the show fell off around season 6, and I think SpongeBob You're Fired was the nail in the coffin for some people, I heard. This is definitely one of the worst episodes of the entire show's history, and it will stay that way for the period of this whole 12 years. Thankfully, there's no more ranting, so I'll work on the Season 9B video when I get to that, honestly, because I have a lot of episodes to go. So, I think that ends up this video. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time, and I'll see you guys next time. And follow me on Twitter anyway. and Snapchat. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Cartoon Retro Boys out. Hello. As I said before, this episode is so bad, I had to split it into two parts. This is why this is the second part of the review. And now I can see why this special just sucks so bad. Because this is exactly the exact point where I noticed the quality of SpongeBob was extremely low around this time. I mean, we already had Little Yellow Book and Squid Baby, but this episode, nada. No, 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 no. This is the special I think completely betrayed me. This is one of the times where I felt like SpongeBob betrayed the audience for sure. Yes, it's literally True for Square all over again. And you know what? You know my theory is, and you know what, this is something I want to talk about. Actually, I should have did in the other part of this review. I actually firmly believe that the writers that I don't blame the writers for writing this episode. I blame Nickelodeon and the network they are because first of all is that Nickelodeon, I think around 2007, I think yeah, cuz they're the same company who decided to greenlit Atlantis for Pantis to be a 40-minute episode. And they're the same company who made True for Square, which was supposed to be 22 minutes long, but was 59 minutes long. You see what I mean? It's because Nickelodeon likes to make bad decisions. Like some of these specials around the post-movie era felt like half-baked by not the writers, Nickelodeon themselves. For example, even though I like SpongeBob versus the Big One, I can see why some people do not like this episode though, because nothing really happens. And I think you should really don't blame the writers for that because I think Nickelodeon was meddling with them, and Nickelodeon requested these episodes to be specials. So stop blaming the writers for stop blaming the writers for like Nickelodeon's actions. And second of all, is that this episode is literally and is probably the most betrayed I felt with this entire show. I was so glad in 2014 after watching season 6. I was basically a little bit done. I was kind of done a little bit. I stopped watching the show around 2014, and I only watched a few. I watched a few episodes, but then for a few months in 2014, I watched other shows like Sanjay and Craig or Breadwinners. Honestly, because I felt like I needed a break from this show. And this was, like I said, the nail in the coffin for me. And one of the worst of the series. So, what is this part 2 supposed to be like? This is just extra thoughts I was thinking of. Because, like I said, this was a special I was so excited to see when I was younger. But when I watched it myself, I felt betrayed. I felt like Nickelodeon was clickbaiting us for no reason whatsoever. This felt like one of the most half-baked, so unbearable SpongeBob episode I have ever seen. It may not be as bad as Choir Boys or True for Square levels of bad, but this is very close to being one of my least favorite episodes of the entire show. And yes, I gave it a 1 out of 10 because I honestly don't feel like giving it a 0 out of 10. I was very close to giving it a 1 out of 10, but you know what? I decided not to, okay? Because I feel like I still think Choir Boys and True for Square are still worse than this episode. I mean, and also let's talk about what I said about in the original part 1. I said originally that I do think that this special sucked a lot, and I even think the Flash game based on this episode is way better than this. I think I am done with this because I think I'm done reviewing SpongeBob Fired. I'm sorry if I didn't review it in my original season 9 review, but I was so just not happy to review this one, and I was just ready to be done. I was ready to just skip on to Lost in Bikini Bottom. So this is basically just an extra bonus part. That's why I'm probably when I upload this on film more, I'll probably show off both parts. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Cartoon Retro Boys out.